So, what are we going to talk about today? Today, a question that is asked to me very often is a question on how do I improve my fluency and my command of the English language. I think this is an important question because whether we like it or not, anybody staying in India knows that if you want to make progress, especially in the corporate world, it's extremely important for you to know the language well, both in writing and verbally. A lot of people in India associate your command or fluency in the language to being a sign of intelligence. It definitely isn't. Improving any language is just about taking the effort, really practicing that particular language, and you can get good at just about any language. Now, before I start on the actual things that you can do to improve your command over the language, let me tell you that this is a perfectly trainable skill. So if you put in the effort towards getting better, you will definitely get better at improving your language. And of course, the tips that I'm giving are for somebody that already knows the language. So it's just that he doesn't have fluency, because I'm not an expert on how to teach a language from scratch. But over the years, I've done a lot of research on how you can go about improving your language. Another tip is the 4 things that I'm going to share on improving the English language is the same 4 tips can be used, the same 4 or 5 tips can be used to improve any language. So if you just replace the word English with French, you can improve your French if you know base level French. So that's what this is about. Now, doing what I'm telling you to do will definitely give you results. So this is not something which is a question mark. If you put in the work, you are going to see the results connected to improving your language. Now, what is tip number 1? And the most important tip of improving your English language is read aloud for 15 minutes every day. Okay? Now, this is a tip which is absolutely non-negotiable. If you don't do this tip, you are not going to get better at your fluency and command over the language. This is the most sure shot way of doing it. Now, why is this tip so important? What this tip does to start with is your mouth gets used to the language, and the minute your mouth starts getting used to the language, automatically your fluency and command over the language improves. When your mouth is not used to a language, you hesitate a lot more while speaking the language, and that's what ends up happening. The second thing that happens when you read aloud is that your mind forms subconscious patterns of how sentences are laid out. So when your mind forms those particular subconscious patterns of how sentences are laid out, you start speaking and writing better automatically. It's just something that ends up happening. That's why when we were younger, our parents and teachers often told us to read good books, and especially good novels, because the whole logic was that those good books have good language and the sentences are laid out in the correct way and in a nice way, and that would have an impression on us, and we would start speaking and writing the English language better. Now, when you are reading aloud, ensure that you do it in a way where you picture an audience sitting in front of you. So that's the way to do it, that you're actually reading out to an audience. So ensure that you use the right tone of voice, ensure that you pause at the right places, ensure that you're stressing on the right words, ensure that you're doing it at the right pace. So do all of those things. So that will also improve the way you speak in a typical. So my first tip on how to improve your language is read aloud for 15 minutes every day. If you think that you need to get better sooner, read for 30 minutes every day. The more you do that, the better you're going to get. Find a place in your house to do it. So a lot of people talk about how they get embarrassed while doing it. So I'm like, listen, to start with, find a place in isolation if you want. And secondly, if you have a lot of people in your house, just tell them that you want to get better at the English language. What's the harm in doing it? I think that sets a good culture in the house of everybody spending time on self-development. So do that. Don't be ashamed of it. The other thing is, start this process irrespective how old you are. There's a lot of talk around, oh, you only learn languages when you're much younger. Sure, it's a lot easier for you to learn a language when you're younger, but that's not it, right? You can learn a language at any point if you take the effort to do it. Now, so many people will spend their entire life making excuses and living with an inferiority complex because they don't know the language but will never take the effort to actually improve it. This is the first of multiple tips that you have to improve it. So get started today. Do it right now.
Darling, you